Welcome back, everyone, to The Long Game. We're on a mission to demystify the science that shapes our lives and to unpack how great ideas, built here in Scotland, become real-world medicines, devices, and new companies at the cutting edge of life sciences. I'm Ross Kagan, Regis Professor of Precision Medicine at University of Glasgow.
I'm Sandy Weir, Tech Innovation Leader and Strategic Program Manager, joining you from Edinburgh.
Hey, Andy. Lovely to meet you. Lovely to meet you. Lovely to see you again this week. I'm sorry, it's been a long day and it's just started.
Yeah, I know. We're just
Tell me
about that.
Yeah, exactly. So let's let everybody know what's going on in your life.
Yeah, so as well as spinning the plates we were talking about just a few minutes ago. No, it's really good to see you this morning, Ross. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. I had some time off recently. Already it feels like it's behind me and slowly going out of view. It's nice to be back in it again and feeling busy again. What about you? How are you doing?
That's great. No, I'm sure you've seen the studies that show that it's not the vacation that actually gets you to relax. It's the anticipation of the vacation that's actually most of the benefit. So
That's
yeah,
right.
for me, I guess I only have one small complaint, that's relevant to this, which is, so I thought 2 years ago I started playing golf. I thought, okay, you just get better and better, and then where you play, you get better, and it goes like this, right? So I played golf this weekend with my buddy Terrence, and yeah, it looks like I'm going to have to relearn this sport. So that was like a tragedy out there on the golf course. It was so bad.
Oh, it happens.
Other
It
than that,
happens
all
from
good.
time to time.
Does it?
Yeah.
Nobody told me about
Yeah.
that.
I think you get to the point where you've reached a level of play, and you start pushing yourself, and you think you can do things that you can't do, and then suddenly that comes down.
Yes.
That shot's on.
My
No,
list of
that
can't
shot was
do's is
never
starting
on.
to get a little bit long there. Other than that, it's been a lovely week.
Oh, that's good. Keep at it. I'm sure it'll improve again.
Thanks, Sandy. So, actually, this is going to be our first sort of two-part series that we've done. So almost every podcast, we're doing something new, which I really love. I have to say, I'm having so much fun with this podcast. So over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be tackling what I think we can all agree is the biggest buzzword of the last decade, artificial intelligence. This is a big topic, so we're splitting it into two distinct episodes, and then I'm sure going forward, we'll have more. So next week, we'll look at how AI is designing crazy new therapies and hallucinating drugs. I am so looking forward. But today, we're starting with something more pragmatic, but arguably more urgent.
Yeah, you're right, Ross. This is a big topic, and we're only we're scratching the surface, but this is somewhat of a good place to start. It's a very important one as well. It's certainly a topic which is changing our lives, and it feels like that change is happening really fast and in real time. But today we're focusing our discussion on time and money. In common with other healthcare systems around the world, the Scottish healthcare system is under unprecedented financial strain. We've talked about this recently in some of our previous episodes, and we've explored a little bit about some of the underlying factors that are leading to that. Um, and these are many and complex as well. However, in our discussion today, we're stripping back and stripping away the hype again. We're going to look at how AI is being deployed right now, how it improves efficiency, how it can lead to better productivity, so cutting costs, slashing administrative burdens, keeping patients out of hospital beds. And yes, you heard me correctly, Ross. The healthcare system is physically avoiding admitting people to hospital beds right now.
Yeah. In the US, they've been doing that for years because it's so wildly expensive to put somebody in a hospital. So just to be clear, for AI and medicine, it's not about robot doctors, although I guess eventually we'll get there. It's really about saving the NHS from bureaucratic collapse. So Sandy, it's that time. Put down our AI designed sausage rolls and let's get into it. So you work in the tech sector. When we talk about AI saving the NHS money, what does that actually look like?
Yeah, thanks, Ross. I'm still laughing inside at the AI generated sausage rolls.
Me too. Think of the
I want to try one of
possibilities.
those.
Go where no man has gone before.
Exactly.
100%.
Yeah, it's a great question. I guess I think this looks like productivity and efficiency savings, and we talked already a little bit about reducing bureaucracy and getting rid of the paperwork. You saw the article, like I did, by Paul McGuinness recently. He's a co-founder and CEO at Storm ID. It was in an eMag, Future Scott. I think it was released back in February, and the headline was "Automate tasks, not jobs: How AI can return 62 million hours to Scotland's public services." If I can kind of briefly summarize the research, they suggested that by 2030, AI adoption could release up to 62 million hours of capacity annually back into Scotland's public services. And the single largest opportunity in that analysis was found to be in NHS Scotland.
So 62 million hours. That's actually a fair bit. So how are they going to do it?
Yeah, I mean, I actually, when I look at that 62 million hours, it does look like a lot, but when you bear in mind that we've got sort of roughly 80,000 hours of a typical UK adult's working lifetime, that's only a reduction around 780 adult working lives. I actually think the benefit might be even more than that. What do you think, Ross? Just on that point.
I get your point. I think ultimately we've heavily underestimated. But what I was going to say is that AI is such a quick moving target
Mm,
that I'm not entirely sure that we have fully decided how to use it. That's one of the reasons we're having this discussion today. You know what I mean?
exactly,
So
exactly.
so there are two threads. One is that we're going to have plenty of people using AI and just getting better,
Mm.
or we're going to have AI displace them. It's going to be interesting whether society makes that decision or whether the AI companies make that decision.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And actually, I mentioned Paul McGuinness. We should really try and get Paul onto the podcast. It'd be lovely to hear more about this and more
Yeah,
about
that's
what
a good
Storm
point. That would
ID
be amazing.
are doing in Scotland as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, coming back to your previous question, I think we're already starting to see some of the interesting results from global trials. There's a groundbreaking pilot of Microsoft 365 Copilot around 80 NHS organisations in the UK, and that's really using AI-powered administrative tools to help support staff, and it's saving on average around 43 minutes every day. Again, that's quite modest, and I think we're only at the tip of the iceberg there. But in case some of our listeners are not familiar with Microsoft Copilot, it's a conversational AI powered assistant that helps to boost productivity and streamline workflows by offering, I guess, contextual assistance. So, automating some of our routine tasks, analyzing data and spreadsheets, that type of thing. So 43 minutes a day, that's 5-person weeks annually. I guess I think that's modest, but yeah, that's a great place to start.
Yeah.
And I guess that AI sits in the background, summarizing things like long email threads and clinical meeting notes, and just thinking about it in the context of NHS working lives, helping to streamline some of those workflows, particularly the bureaucracy that we know does exist. And you and I, Ross, we were very much early adopters of generative AI, and we used tools like ChatGPT, Claude, etc., very early. So we immediately recognize these types of benefits, right?
Yeah. So recently in the US, I had a poll, the most popular to the least popular of a whole long list of topics. And the least popular was Jeffrey Epstein. So that tracks. The second least popular was the Democratic Party, but the third least popular was AI. And I think this is an example where now that AI is starting to get into the weeds, you can really see where it can be an actual benefit. None of us like going to a doctor, having him or her blow in, give us 10 minutes at best, quick conversation, and then blow out. And then you're like, well, I don't understand what happened. I kind of forgot to ask them what I was even going to talk about. This is not really an experience. So the idea is, in the best case scenario, AI will get rid of the reason that that doctor had to leave and sit down and work through all the, all the typing and all the tedious stuff. And I'm hoping that it will allow doctors to spend a lot more time with patient. What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that's what we all hope is that this translates into more human interaction time, and that's where we get the real benefit. But we can see, of course, these efficiency improvements are not coming without at least some controversy. And we saw that the private management consultants, KPMG, they reported and advised the NHS Grampian that they could potentially replace around 40% of their back office staff with AI. And they estimated that using technology like the sort of robotic or heavy processing and automation that generative AI can provide could save the board up to £15.6 million by 2030. That's quite a lot.
Yeah, and you can see the thinking behind all this, and again, we go back to who's gonna make these decisions. So
Mm,
if replacing 40% of your administrative staff on the one hand, that sounds pretty harsh, that sounds pretty tough. But on the other hand, if you're facing, say, £50 million in overspends, and it's your job to get those books balanced, you can see why it would be a very straightforward decision to say, well, you know what, we're just going to flip this switch and we're going to save all of this salary money. So I can see both sides of it and why this would be really tempting for the people who will probably make those decisions. It will almost be their job to make
yeah.
that decision. You agree?
Yeah, no, I do agree, and I guess I also look at it in a slightly different way as well. I think about that £15.6 million potential saving that has been identified, and the opportunities to reinvest that in a way that helps further to deliver, progress over, against that overspend that you've quite rightly highlighted. But if we step back a little bit from the administrative side, Ross, how is AI actually changing patient care delivery, without inventing new drugs and the topics that we kind of want to get on in the next pod?
Yeah, this is where we get into the question that you and I have been sort of dancing around, which is, are we talking about divvying the pie up differently and giving AI more of that pie, or are we talking about making a larger pie, which of course would be the ideal to all this, and this is what's being promised. So the biggest shift will be, I think, the virtual ward. And this is happening. The goal is to monitor patients at home with basically the same precision as if they were in the ICU. So, and like I said, this is actually happening now. So NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde, which you and I know a fair bit about, they partnered last year with a digital health company called Dokla to launch what they call Scotland's largest virtual hospital.
Yeah, this is so interesting, Ross. I mean,
Yeah.
how does a virtual hospital actually work? Have you looked into this in more detail?
I have, and I have to say, this has been a sort of a slow motion boulder that I've been watching roll forward for some time now, even before I came to Scotland. Back in New York, I was at Icon School of Medicine at Mount Sinai, and they basically hired a whole team just to create a virtual hospital back in like 2010, 2012, that kind of thing. So it's really been something that's been talked about a lot. But of course, now with AI, now here we are. So let's talk about what's actually happened. So Dokla and NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde, they've already rolled out 1,000 virtual ward beds. So it's a sort of a virtual bed, if you will. Patients wear remote monitoring devices at home, and maybe we'll put a picture up if I figure out that we're allowed to do that. Um, and AI algorithms, they just constantly analyze real-time biometric data, their heart rate, oxygen levels, their temperature, and so on. And if the AI, is crunches this, so all this is sent to a central hub, and I've actually seen pictures of this central hub with doctors and workers all in cubicles monitoring all these patients. And if the AI detects a subtle pattern that suggests the patient's having problems, then message gets sent to this central clinical hub. Doctor checks in on the patient and decides what needs to be done. So what this allows, and I've seen interviews with patients actually going through this, what it allows you to do is you get care, proper care, but right in people's homes, which of course frees up all sorts of capacity in the hospitals and in general makes things more efficient, which in a perfect world means that we can actually get better healthcare and have, better interactions with our doctors.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? It really does change that patient's experience of the healthcare system. And I guess we're seeing similar things in terms of AI efficiency and productivity and the focus on radiology imaging and imaging workflows, which you remember is kind of my world at
I do
kind of
remember.
medical.
Yeah.
So
That's why I'm
there
excited to
we've
do this with you.
yeah, exactly, and so it's good to get that kind of 360 degree view. And I guess in that imaging context, really seen the emphasis on what we've called smart modality. And our team in Edinburgh, we recently got 3.6 million of additional funding from Scottish Enterprise to support our growth ambitions as part of a 40 million pounds investment, which includes developing AI-driven workflow and looking at new ways to make medical scans faster. So this is the sort of AI application that we're discussing that helps us to reduce the overall read time, so improve the scanning efficiency, meaning that we improve patient throughput, helps the radiologist to get through their backlog faster, which is incredibly important given that the size of our backlog even this long after COVID, and really bring down those scan times and reduce the times for diagnostic waiting dramatically. So all about the
Ye
efficiency
y
improvement.
Yeah, and, I've been fascinated. You and I have, over the years, have talked a bit about this, and I think it's amazing. It's all about the flow, which, of course, will take time to perfect, and you're gonna have to attach that to some of the other things we've been talking about, virtual hospitals and so on. You can kinda see how it will all create, in a perfect world, a seamless approach. I think where the strength in the Scotland and UK will be is because they have a single point source, the NHS, as opposed to the States, which is more chaotic. You can imagine integrating these things in a much more straightforward, more efficient manner, and that way you can get faster admin, you can get faster scans, and at the same time keeping the patients safely at home.
Yeah, that's so right. And actually, before we wrap up on this topic, Ross, I think it would be really useful to look at highlighting what I think is a really instructive example of how this flow is being optimized internationally. I've got a bit of familiarity with the Danish healthcare system, spent a bit of time in Riggs Hospital, and I think this is also something you've been bringing to my attention because what we see there is it's not just about the patient being diagnosed. It's about that very first interaction, about that initial phone call and the interaction with the hospital services.
Yeah, you're talking about emergency dispatch?
Exactly, and in Denmark, what we're seeing is the use of virtual AI virtual assistants developed through a project called AI for EMS, and these is quite imaginative. These listen in on live emergency calls.
So you and I have talked about this. So the AI is listening to the emergency calls in real time.
Yeah, it's
So
quite
cool.
something, isn't it?
So
So
wild.
it's wild. So the human dispatcher is talking to the caller, and the AI is running in the background. The natural language processing is analyzing that discussion. It's listening into the words. It's trying to analyze and understand even the non-verbal acoustic patterns in the caller's voice. So their tone, the sense of urgency, their breathing rate, trying to detect the level of anxiety in the patient, and really helping to interpret the whole background around the call.
Yeah. Now this is so amazing. I was describing this the other day to somebody. I had to repeat it multiple times. Yes, they're actually just monitoring the tone of the voice and so on. And I think the accuracy is supposed to be amazing because they're basically diagnosing either a cardiac arrest or an impending cardiac arrest right over the phone. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And what we've seen is the data that they've published from Copenhagen has shown that they can use this AI to identify a cardiac arrest in just 44 seconds with a success rate of around 95%, as so outperforming human ability to be able to do this is really surprising, right? So I think they've had nearly 110,000 emergency calls now as part of this study, and this software has been seen to be able to reduce the number of undetected out of hospital cardiac arrests by 43%. So
That's
amazing.
such a cool example, Sandy. And it's a really good example of AI as basically as a co-pilot. So this, I think, is like a good use of AI. We can all agree on that. It didn't replace the human dispatcher, but it enhances and empowers that dispatcher by catching the subtle acoustic signals that a is very stressed out human ear might miss, probably will miss, and you save time and you save lives. This
Yeah,
is really incredible.
exactly. I think it's a perfect model for what we should be aiming to do here in Scotland to improve, or yet another example of the areas that we can improve in terms of healthcare delivery in Scotland.
Yeah, no, I agree. So when AI is done well, it can really, really be powerful.
Yeah, it's amazing how much difference it can make, and I'm really looking forward to the next part of this discussion
Yeah.
where we'll start to look at the effects on new medicines. But we'll talk about that next week, I think, Ross.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But before we wrap up, it's time for our closing segment. I'm just doing the podcast so I can get to this end game here. Wee bit of joy, Sandy. Tell me, what has brought you a wee bit of joy this week, my friend?
Ah, right. Okay. Well, I want to talk a wee bit about wellness, Ross, and a great way to explore this. So, because I've mentioned it on the podcast before that we like to explore these outdoor saunas around Scotland, my wife and I. And this week, Helen and I took a trip up to Loch Tay to enjoy a particular I guess it's a spa. Let's call it a spa, but it's a bit more rustic than that. It's called the Hot Box, and it's lochside, right on the loch, and it has a sauna and hot tubs and things. And it's near Kenmore. If anybody knows that part of Scotland, just outside of Aberfeldy, you should really go and check it out. But we really enjoy these outdoor saunas, and in my opinion, this one is pretty special. It's got a
Yeah.
short slide at the end of the jetty, just over the loch, and you take your sauna, you go to your steam room, you have your hot tub, whatever your preference is. I like the sauna. I like the effect the sauna has on me. And then you take yourself down to the slide and you sit on the edge, and the air temperature's, we're in Scotland, the air temperature's cold, you're feeling a bit nervous, you just plunge down that slide and then you're bang into the loch. And at the weekend, the temperature of the loch was somewhere around 3 to 4 degrees. It was pretty cold. It
Ooh.
sounds like torture, but let me
Yeah.
tell you, Ross, the feeling is absolutely amazing. We had like a 2 hour session, so that's allows you, a few rounds of hot sauna to freezing cold dip in the loch, and you come away feeling like a new person. It's a great way to get your wellness fix and really to kind of help to boost your mental health as well, I think.
I'm sorry, man. As a city boy, I got to ask you, which part of this was the more rural part? And why are you going into 3-degree water?
It's just the feeling it gives you. It gives you, I guess it just gives you this amazing buzz. So actually, going into the cold water itself is a huge shock, right? And you just feel the
You
urgent
think?
need to get out of it as quickly as possible. And I was joking with Helen that I think she set a new breaststroke record at one point. But once you're out back into that cold air, honestly, the feeling is just invigorating. It just feels really nice. So yeah, you got to try it. You got to do it.
Okay, you do you, my friend.
Yeah,
No,
so
I
but
actually it does sound amazing. Like I said, as a city boy, I'm just kind of blown away by that.
yeah, yeah. But tell me, Ross, what's been lighting you up this week? Are you been in any cold water, or are you?
Yeah, while you're
It's
dunking yourself in an ice bath, me not so much. So instead, I want to talk about a book because I can read this book in a nice warm couch. So I'm just saying, Um, and I want to talk about a book from this guy, David Eagleman. So Eagleman is an American neuroscientist. You may have seen him around. He does the YouTube circuit, but he's actually a genuine and well-respected neuroscientist at Stanford University. Actually, he does all sorts of interesting things. So it'd be amazing to have this guy on the pod. He's a pioneer, for example, in the field of neurolaw. So our understanding of the brain and brain science, how that influences how we make laws, how we decide how to punish criminals, rehabilitation, and so on. So that's kind of interesting right off the bat. But what I actually want to talk about is a book that you may remember I was reading when we got together recently on a golf course,
do
and
remember
that's
this.
one of his books, yeah, called 40 Tales from the Afterlives. So what it is it's a book of 40 very, very short chapters. So I do it by audiobook, and each chapter is like 3 to 4 minutes. So we're talking short. But each imagines a different scenario for the afterlife. Okay. And the point I have to say is not about the afterlife. It's not a religious book in any way, but it's about life. And it's a meditation on life and putting a mirror up to it by imagining what happens after you step out of it. So, for example, in the first chapter called Some, you relive your life, but you lump everything together into categories and then relive them in chunks. So, I got a list here. You spend 2 months driving the street in front of your house, 7 months having sex, 30 years without opening your eyes. You suffer pain for 27 straight hours. And for 5 months straight, you do nothing but flip through magazines while sitting on the toilet. You spend 6 days clipping your nails, 15 months looking for things that you lost,
I think I
18
spent
months
more than
waiting in
that.
line. Yes, exactly. So needless to say, that would be a pretty insane life. And breaking life into small chunks turns out actually to be a pretty good life design. So it's things like this. Another one, to a more sort of a thoughtful or serious note, there's a chapter called Metamorphosis, where the afterlife, you basically go into a lobby and you chat with other people that are in the same position, which is you stay in there until your name is spoken by the living for the very last time, and then you're out. And so it goes through the different possibilities. Sometimes you just missed your loved one because they come in. They're the last one to speak your name as you leave. The whole thing is actually very thoughtful and very interesting about it. So it's sort of a mix of these various things. It's read by a number of very famous narrators, Stephen Fry, Emily Blunt, Gillian Anderson, Nick Cave. So basically, if you're looking to stay out of the 3-degree water, you're looking for a shift in perspective, I can definitely recommend this book, Some 40 Tales from the Afterlives.
That's an amazing recommendation, Ross. And I was so intrigued when you told me about this on the golf course. It has stimulated some conversations I've had as well. Yeah, it's fascinating. I recommend people listen to this on their audiobooks, drive up to the Tayport to to partake in the Lochside sauna, the cool dip, and then listen to it on the way back as well.
And then listen to our podcast on the way back. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I'm sure that will bring wellness and happiness. No guarantees. Please read the small print.
All
Excellent.
right, big shot.
Well, I think that ties things up and puts a bow on it nicely, and brings us to the end of this first part of our short discussion on AI. Next week, Ross will be looking at how AI is used in terms of digital twins and inventing personalized cancer vaccines, and I'm really looking forward to that discussion, particularly to get your perspective on that. I think that'll be fascinating.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to flexing a little bit on that. So everybody won't want to miss it. And until next time, Sandy and everybody, enjoy your AI generated sausage rolls. Keep the heat, and best of luck playing the long game. Ciao.
Bye for now.
Yeah, see the vision clear. We're here to run the long game. Blueprint set, no fear. Playing out the long game, the long game.